In the future, people set up factories that produce zombies to satisfy their darkest cravings. A journalist is covering a potentially serious incident at the famous hotel known as the Rezort, which has officials considering the reactivation of the infamous Brimstone Protocol. A decade ago, the Chroma syndrome virus swept across the globe, infecting nearly 2 billion people. But the real horror wasn't just the infection, it was what came after. The virus first killed its victims, only to bring them back as mindless zombies. This unleashed a devastating war between the living and the undead. With no interest from Pfizer in developing a cure, the government resorted to Brimstone, a series of brutal bombings targeting infected zones. Today, the zombie threat has been drastically reduced. The few remaining undead are confined to a remote island in the Pacific. Billionaire Valerie Wilton transformed this island into an exclusive luxury resort. Like a high-end game preserve, tourists fly in to hunt zombies for sport and entertainment. Surrounding the island is a refugee camp funded by the non-profit Hope For You, chaired by Valerie herself, who claims her organization is dedicated to easing the ongoing refugee crisis. But just as humanity is starting to recover from the nightmare of war, the threat of a new outbreak looms large. Even this high-security luxury island can no longer guarantee safety. Suddenly, several bombers roar overhead, flying low right above the journalist's head. Something serious clearly happened on that island. 10 days earlier, in London, a young woman named Melanie is heading home after a support group meeting. Melanie suffers from PTSD. 10 years ago, she lost her father during the zombie war, and the trauma still weighs heavily on her. No amount of therapy or medication has been able to ease her pain. As a last hope, she asks her husband, Lewis, to take her to a resort, hoping that a change of scenery might help her finally start to heal. That night, Melanie wakes up in a panic. She asks Lewis what it's like to face zombies. He shrugs it off, comparing it to hunting rats. Later, she watches a video her father recorded just before he died. On the screen, he once again urges Melanie to stay strong and fight for her life. The next day, Melanie and Lewis arrive at the resort's airbase. Among the other guests are Jack and Alfie, two teenagers who won the trip in a video game contest, Sadie, a young woman who was left at the altar just hours before her wedding, and Archer, a middle-aged war veteran. While they're having drinks in the airport lounge, Melanie notices a refugee girl standing behind a fence, clutching a toy tightly in her hand. Melanie tries to move closer to the girl, but just moments later, the girl's mother pulls her away, leaving Melanie feeling unsettled and uncertain. Shortly after, the guests are whisked away to the resort on a sleek, fast boat, plunging them into the eerie and unsettling vibe of the notorious island. Before the zombie hunt kicks off, everyone undergoes a weapons briefing. Melanie skips the lesson. Lewis, a seasoned British Army soldier, has already trained her thoroughly. That evening, the guests gather for dinner where Valerie Wilton, the resort's CEO, delivers a carefully crafted speech about the resort's mission to help visitors confront and heal the deep scars left by the zombie war. Meanwhile, restless and anxious, Sadie sneaks into the resort's control center and expertly hacks the security system. She downloads a trove of files onto a flash drive just before heading out, but Archer, a wary and suspicious guest, catches sight of her. At the same time, Valerie brings a zombified woman on stage, offering guests a chilling preview of the horrors they'll face in the hunt tomorrow. Later, the security team picks up a breach in the system and panics over what to do next. But paralyzed by fear of their CEO, the engineers keep it to themselves, desperately trying to fix the problem behind the scenes without alerting her. The following day, the group sets out from the hotel for a safari beyond the resort's perimeter. When security attempts to close the automated gates, the system starts to glitch and malfunction. Wilton catches the malfunction immediately and demands the technicians fix it now. Meanwhile, the group reaches the hunting grounds, where they're given detailed instructions and warned to follow strict safety protocols. The tourists climb to a raised platform, overlooking hundreds of zombies milling just below, bracing themselves for the chilling hunt ahead. Sadie, tense and uneasy, suddenly decides she can't bring herself to shoot. Archer, meanwhile, keeps throwing her wary, distrustful glances. Lewis encourages Melanie to let out her frustration through the rifle. Though anxious, she watches as he calmly lines up his shot and nails a zombie right between the eyes. Finally, Melanie takes the rifle herself and steadies her aim on a zombie woman, only to find the creature's cold eyes locking onto hers. Worried, Melanie lowers her weapon, but before anyone can react, the seasoned Archer grabs his shotgun and unleashes a rapid volley of shots, each one hitting a zombie right between the eyes. The other tourists watch in stunned admiration at his precision. A few hours later, the group is driven to a remote campsite where they'll spend the night. At the camp, a frustrated Melanie confides in her husband that dropping thousands of dollars on this questionable adventure probably wasn't such a great idea after all. She just can't bring herself to shoot people, even if they've turned into zombies. Lewis tries to calm her, promising that next time she'll do better. Meanwhile, Archer strikes up a conversation with the suspicious Sadie. He wants to understand why she came all this way if she doesn't even like shooting. Sadie explains that her ex-fiancé paid for the trip, and now she's just trying to enjoy the nature. Back at the resort, the security situation is spiraling out of control. At first hesitant to reveal the full extent of the problem, the head of security finally admits an unauthorized hacker breached their system and unleashed a deep-rooted virus. Then, without warning, the entire security system goes dark. Everyone on the island knows that if they don't fix it fast, the resort will be swarmed by zombies within minutes. But the virus is sophisticated and dangerous. Chances of stopping it are slim. The staff scramble to alert all the guides, but it's already too late. Meanwhile, another group of tourists is hunting zombies in a different way. They roam through the buildings, shooting monsters that have been restrained by special chains. But the system glitch causes all the restraints to fail at once, and suddenly the zombies are completely free. The second group is just wrapping up when they're ambushed. One guy manages a headshot on an attacking zombie, but another friend gets caught off guard from the opposite side. Realizing the chaos has spiraled beyond control, the remaining guests scatter in panic, fleeing the scene. Inside the resort, the madness escalates. Zombies now dominate the grounds, attacking anyone they can get their hands on, guests and staff alike. Worse yet, the undead breach the control center, infecting the engineers desperately working to restore security. When Valerie spots a female zombie lunging toward her, she runs for her office in terror, leaving her team trapped behind. With the control center lost, Operation Brimstone is automatically activated. The island is now on a countdown. The survivors have only a few hours to escape before it self-destructs. Meanwhile, the group camping nearby remains completely unaware of the outbreak. Late that night, a restless Melanie and a nervous Sadie sit by the fire, talking about why they came here in the first place. But just as they begin to open up, they see a zombie staggering toward them out of the darkness. Startled, Melanie yells for everyone to wake up and shouts at Sadie to shoot it, but she freezes, unable to pull the trigger. The zombie lunges. Just in time, Archer steps forward and drops it with a single, clean shot. Their guide insists this shouldn't be possible. Zombies have never come this close to the camp before. He turns on the truck's lights to survey the area. What they see sends chills down their spines. An entire horde of zombies closing in on them. The men open fire immediately while Melanie and Sadie scramble for cover. One of the creatures nearly grabs Melanie, but brave Sadie manages to pull her to safety at the last second. The guy jumps into the vehicle and tries to call for reinforcements, but the only response is an automated message. Brimstone protocol has been activated. The island will be destroyed within hours. Desperate to avoid the swarm, the group climbs onto the roof of the vehicle, staying alert. But just as a terrified Alfie tries to climb up, a zombie grabs and bites him. Already infected, he doesn't even have time to react. Lewis, cold and focused, takes him and the zombie out with 2 precise shots. After a while, Archer calls for everyone to stop shooting. The immediate threat is over. The zombies in the area have been taken down. But with danger still looming, the group has no choice but to spend the night on the roof of the vehicle, huddled together in what now feels like a war zone. By morning, the guide, visibly shaken, warns them, time is running out. Brimstone protocol is close to reaching full activation. Once it does, the island will be bombed to wipe out every last zombie, and the infection they carry. He also explains that an evacuation plan was originally in place for the resort staff, but their vehicle is out of commission, and there's no way they'll make it to the shoreline on foot in time. Still, Archer refuses to sit and wait for the end. He proposes taking a shortcut through the interior, knowing that staying put isn't an option. As they move, Archer suddenly halts the group, saying he heard something. Almost immediately, a zombie lunges at Jack, but the guide reacts just in time, taking it down with a shot. As he looks closer, his expression changes. The zombie was once his colleague. They press on in tense silence until they come across a wrecked safari truck crashed into a fence. One by one, they squeeze through the twisted metal to the other side, just as a new horde of zombies appears and starts moving toward them. The men hold them off, firing to buy precious seconds. One of the zombies grabs Melanie by the neck, but this time, Sadie doesn't hesitate. She pulls the trigger and saves her friend. Finally, the group makes it through the fence, but just when they think they're safe, a zombie appears out of nowhere and sinks its teeth into the guide. Frozen for a second, everyone watches in horror. Then Lewis, grim and composed, raises his weapon and puts the man down, knowing there's no saving him now. Before long, the group spots a communications tower in the distance. But just as they're about to move forward, Archer threatens to leave Sadie behind unless she finally reveals what she was doing at the control center that day. Realizing she has no way out, a terrified Sadie is forced to confess her secret. She reveals that she's a member of a zombie rights activist group, fighting to end the cruelty inflicted on the unfortunate infected. Sadie was sent to the resort to download files from its main system. Evidence of unethical practices meant to expose the resort and shut it down for good. But Jack suspects that Sadie was betrayed by her own people. It turns out that when she plugged in the flash drive to download the files, it released a virus into the system, completely compromising the resort's security. Sadie is devastated by the truth, but the others barely acknowledge her. Only Melanie shows any sympathy and promises not to abandon her. To reach the communications tower, the group must now pass through a nightmarish section of buildings. Human flesh litters the area, and it's clear the place is crawling with zombies. Luckily, they manage to slip into the building without alerting the monsters. Trying to stay hidden, the group splits up and ducks into separate hallways. Archer, Melanie, and Lewis take one route, while Jack and Sadie head down another. Eventually, Archer's group finds an exit and makes it out alive, but Jack and Sadie aren't so lucky. They're attacked by zombies. As Sadie fights to help Jack escape, she's bitten. Realizing she's going to turn soon, she tearfully hands Jack the flash drive and begs him to run. Moments later, she's torn apart by the ravenous creatures. There are just 55 minutes left until Brimstone is activated. Terrified, Jack runs to rejoin Archer's group, and together they make their way through the dark corridors of the hotel. Moving cautiously, they come across several zombies locked in cages. Suddenly, one falls from the ceiling, landing right on Jack, and bites him in the neck. Jack begins to turn, and Archer has no choice but to shoot him. With heavy hearts, Archer, Lewis, and Melanie press on, but their horror deepens when they realize they've stumbled into a refugee camp, one that was founded by Valerie Wilton. They finally understand the truth. The organization is a front. Refugees are lured to the island with promises of food and shelter, only to be turned into zombies to sustain the resort's dark business. Suddenly, the same little girl Melanie saw at the airport appears from one of the tents, now a zombie. She hisses and signals the other infected refugees to emerge. Panicked, the group runs back into the corridor. Archer fires back and slams the door shut behind them. Zombies keep pounding at the door, and Melanie jumps in to help hold it. She calls on Lewis for help, but instead, he grabs onto a chain dangling from the open ceiling and pulls himself up, abandoning them. Archer quickly urges Melanie to do the same. As soon as she's safe, Archer sacrifices himself, taking down several zombies in the process. Melanie finds herself alone in the eerie hotel lobby, now swarming with the undead. She picks up a pistol and tries to sneak through unnoticed. But suddenly, Lewis appears. He apologizes for leaving her behind. But when a shaken Melanie spots a bite mark on his arm, she raises her gun at him. She can't bring herself to pull the trigger. Instead, she hands Lewis the gun and lets him decide his own fate. Just then, another wave of zombies storms the room. Melanie grabs a second gun and takes off down the dark corridors once more. Suddenly, Valerie Wilton, the CEO, pulls her into her office, claiming the only way out is through the emergency exit. With just 5 minutes left until the explosion, she scrambles to think of a way to distract the zombies. But Melanie, furious, accuses her of turning refugees into zombies and profiting from their suffering. Valerie snaps and tries to wrestle the gun from Melanie's hands. It falls to the floor. Before either of them can grab it, a horde of zombies bursts into the room and swarms Valerie. Melanie narrowly escapes the building, but more zombies are right behind her. As she runs for her life, the Brimstone Protocol is finally activated. An exhausted woman leaps into the sea just as the island is being obliterated by airstrikes. Soon after, rescue helicopters arrive, and Melanie makes it safely back to the mainland. Shortly after the incident, Melanie exposes the truth about Valerie Wilton's organization, and her story is broadcast across the globe. Meanwhile, Archer, who somehow managed to escape the island, is sitting in a bar, watching Melanie's statement on TV. Melanie doesn't appear on screen, but her voice is heard in an audio message. She claims that when humanity won the war against the zombies 10 years ago, it lost its sense of humanity. She also hints that another zombie war may be just around the corner. Finally, we see a reporter covering the incident live from the island. Suddenly, a group of zombies emerges from the water right in the middle of the broadcast. It turns out some of them survived the bombing and made it to the far side of the island. A new war is, indeed, dangerously close. So, who's scarier in this story, the zombies or the humans? And do you think people will ever stop exploiting tragedy for profit, or is the hunger for money just too powerful to beat? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.